Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman. And hey, everyone, I've missed you guys. Computer America has been, kind of on a pseudo vacation here for the past week, and we are ready to, of course, jump back into it. Hopefully, you guys didn't miss us too much, and you are ready for a lot more shows here in the, here in the near future. And hey, I thought, to come back, we'd have a great guest, we'd have a great show. And if you're tuning in today, well, then you really want to stick around for the interview where we'll be talking to STXsurreal, and we're going to be talking all about The Limit. It's a virtual reality film, and it's going to be a very interesting conversation because VR is something that we've been following since it kind of really broke into the consumer scene a couple of years ago, and it's getting better all the time. It's interesting to see how people are trying to really find the best use for the medium. So hey, guests like these, really get to show off what is best with virtual reality. And yeah, so with that being said, before we get started, a couple of things, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything from the show notes after the show. We'll post everything that we talk about. We'll include links to our guest website, any articles that we do during computer and technology news, anything like that you can find at computeramerica.com. Also, be sure to check out our social media. Feel free to do that everywhere at Computer America. And our live video stream. If you feel like watching Computer America and not just listening, hey, we have a way for you to do that as well. All right. All that being said, want to go ahead and just say one more time, thank you for joining us. It's going to be a great show, and we're going to go ahead and bring on our guest. So, as I said before, joining us today is STXsurreal, and joining us is Mr. Rick Ray. He is the co-president of virtual reality and immersive entertainment at STXsurreal, and want to go ahead and bring him on. So, Rick Ray, can you hear me? Welcome onto Computer America. Oh, wait. Actually, I'm sorry. 1 second. I got this. And there we go. You should be good now. Rick, can you hear me?
Hey, Ben. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on the show.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for coming on. Obviously, as I said before, virtual reality, I think, is something that most of our listeners have heard at one point or another. Actually getting people to, sit down with the headset and finding time to check it out. Maybe that's still kind of in the works, but virtual reality in general is a very interesting field for us. Why don't you explain to our audience what it is you tried to do with STXsurreal, kind of how you got into really this new field? Because, whenever we talk about virtual reality, no one's like, oh, I've been doing VR for 20 years. No, they're obviously doing something, and just in the past 5-6 years, they started to have an interest in this. Tell us about your background and the company's background.
Yeah, so I co-run the virtual reality division of STX Entertainment. STX is a larger media company. We produce movies, TV shows, digital content. My background is deeply in digital content, so I've been producing short-form online video for the last 15 years, and actually had an independent VR content company called Surreal that I founded with my partner Andy Vick about 5 years ago. And we were very much focused on producing 360-degree video experiences for platforms that really had just started to enable 360 video features in their platforms. So Facebook, YouTube, a few years back started to enable this, and they were looking for content producers to help them test this new format and work with some of their content creators. And so we had the opportunity to really make a lot of content. And so we produced together around 100 different short-form VR experiences, and then had the opportunity to meet STX Entertainment a little over 2 years ago. STX, like I said, is a larger media company producing a lot of movies and TV shows, and so we decided to really just come in-house and bring the company to STX so that we could take advantage of the resources, take advantage of the great talent that's coming through the door here, with the goal really of producing ultra high quality scripted VR programming with world-class filmmakers and talent in front of the camera. And so that is what we're doing. STXsurreal is a VR content studio, and we are focused on making scripted VR movies.
And that, of course, is very interesting because, maybe there was a similar conversation being had when things went from black and white to color, when things went from color to or silent movies to sound. I mean, you are really it seems like you're trying to take elements of what has been working, and anyone out there watching the video portion, we have the limit, and we're going to talk about exactly what the limit is here in a second. But you're taking what obviously has worked in the past with movies, and you're trying to adapt them to VR. And I think that's a very interesting, kind of conversation to be had, because a lot of things were, had to be reworked whenever a new medium, new tools were available to filmmakers. And there's a lot of ways we could attack this. Why don't we start with, just kind of yourself and how you see adapting film to VR? I mean, is this something that you have seen kind of done right? I mean, obviously you are going to experiment with more experiences in the future, but have you seen any examples that you could share with the audience where it was just done right, where they took an interesting approach and maybe put you into the movie or any other aspect? Like what are the strong points of VR compared to traditional movies?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. We look at the history of cinema, the history of movie making, and there's been all these advancements along the way to really create a more engaging, a more immersive experience, right? So you're mentioning from black and white to color, the introduction of computer graphics, even things like animation or high-quality sound, large format screens. I think all of these have sort of been steps along the way, and I think this is exactly what we point to when we talk about the potential for VR movies to really be a future iteration of that cinematic experience. And so for us, it's really about not abandoning all of those core pillars of great movie making, of great filmmaking, and instead figuring out what we can adapt, what we can advance, and sort of bringing all of that into the VR headset in a way that feels native for the headset, right? But at the same time, I think a lot of other filmmakers and studios have been challenged to accomplish that because some of the technology and the tools involved in making the content just have been really kind of difficult to use, and we know that because we've been working with them for years also. And so, a lot of the focus to date on the live action content side in VR has been on 360-degree video. And there are, specialized camera systems that are out there. Some of them are now even off the shelf. You can just sort of buy one and start capturing content. And I think there's a lot of great examples of experiential, unscripted events, other types of sort of shorter form 360 video experiences that are out there in the world. But I think when you're talking with world-class filmmakers that are, used to handcrafting a narrative using tools that have been around, for a century, I think the idea of now we're going to throw a 360 camera in a room, and everyone needs to sort of run out of the room when we press record, and it's really hard for you as the filmmaker to even really monitor what's going on, to be able to sort of evaluate the performances of your actors, and also the editing of that and everything just becomes these huge barriers where when you're talking to amazing filmmakers, it's sort of like maybe it's a little bit too far outside their comfort zone. And so for us, what we've done here at STX is really find what we think is a format that sort of bridges the gap between 360 video and more traditional widescreen cinematic content. And that is sort of our unique format that we call the super surreal format. And it's wider than 180 degrees. It's not full surround 360. And it allows you as the viewer to have a more comfortable experience because you can be seated in a couch, you can sit in a regular chair, lean back, put a headset on, look left, right, up, down, all around. You're still fully immersed in the experience. You don't have to sort of stretch your neck back and look behind you. So it's more comfortable for the viewer, and for the filmmaker, it's the process to make the content is much easier because they're using more traditional cinema-grade camera systems, and obviously we're augmenting them so that we're able to create this format. But it feels a little bit more like traditional movie making or TV making than it does this sort of completely new process for content creation.
And that's very, very cool to hear because we've seen and heck, we've even had on the show here content creators in the past that when you talk about 360 video, you think, wow, this is going to be so cool. You get to put people in a situation that maybe they'd be very interested. Maybe they'll hear a sound behind them, so they'll look behind them and they can see that. And on paper, very, very cool. It's something new, unique, and has a lot of possibility. But I do like kind of what you've done here because as cool as that is on paper, I've also seen and experienced it myself. If you spend 2 hours watching a movie and you have to constantly be scanning for, make sure you don't miss anything or you look behind yourself, that's not relaxing. It's it can get very tiring. Like you're tired after watching a movie instead of just enjoying the experience, you're trying to take as much in and more than you normally would to make sure you don't miss anything. So I'm glad that you have kind of done this. And by the way, we're looking at your website and you have this one kind of screenshot here, presented in a new immersive cinema format. Looking at the screenshot here, there are very plush, leather, comfortable virtual seats. So you've created this to not just be like, a weird kind of cave where one person sits. You're still putting people in sort of a virtual cinema, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we spent a lot of time really thinking through what that visual experience is for the viewer A to Z. We didn't want to, create an experience that, was only half of an experience where you're, it's a black void behind you. And so we designed a beautiful theater, sort of maybe think of like a dome-style theater virtual environment. And we have, our custom navigation. We have lots of bonus content there that you can watch with a sort of a virtual 16:9 screen that also pops up. And so I think it was always part of our plan to really make sure that even though the screen doesn't cover 360, that you're still, as the viewer, fully immersed in a space that we have designed.
No, and of course makes perfect sense for what you kind of do. But also, you know what? Hey, before we get any further, let's talk about the limit. This is one of your experiences that you've kind of put out there, and it's something that people can actually go out, download right now, buy right now, and we'll talk about kind of how much it is and things like that. But let's talk about the limit as a movie. Norman Reedus, of course, Walking Dead fame. I think a lot of people would know him. Michelle Rodriguez, obviously, and then you have the very tantalizing And You. So talk about the movie and just kind of give an overview of the movie and how you experience it.
Sure. So The Limit is an action movie where you are sort of thrust into a scenario with Michelle Rodriguez, who sort of pulls you into this crazy thrill ride experience of trying to figure out your identity and trying to save yourself. It's shot first person POV. This was a partnership with our filmmaker Robert Rodriguez. So you might know Robert from Sin City, Machete. He's a very innovative director. We were able to work with him to really handcraft what this was going to be. He wrote and directed the piece. So this is very much something that he was a huge part of. And he loved POV style, like his and of course every creative has a slightly different take on it. I think, and this is the great thing about working at a studio, is having the ability to work with so many different types of creatives. Robert loves POV and thinks that idea of bringing you inside of an action movie is really compelling, and we agreed. And having talent like Michelle Rodriguez and Norman Reedus as part of this really just validated that this was going to be a real premium experience that would look and feel like a movie, but have just a much more compelling format and be an experience that's way more visceral than what you could ever get just going to the movies or watching something at home.
So obviously these actors, they've been on screen before, they've been on television, movies, things like that. And I'm not sure how closely you worked with with these people and the directors, but how did you get any kind of sense from that they think that admittedly this is 180 not 360, but still it's something with VR and it's different. You have to I'd assume that you kind of snap your fingers, get them to look a certain way, kind of direct people a bit, bring the person into the experience a bit more than a movie. Did they have fun with it? I mean, because this is different. Changing from TV or film to VR, did the talent actually enjoy this?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a real fun set. We have a number of behind the scenes featurettes that we produce that you can watch within the app, and you can get a sense of that. But it's very much a Robert Rodriguez production, and he has already a relationship and rapport with this talent, and so that was something that we really got to take advantage of, and them already having a way of working together. For Michelle, she really kind of helped come up with this with her character with Robert. It sort of was born out of a conversation that they had a couple years ago about just if they were to do something in VR, what would it be? And Michelle immediately threw out a bunch of different ideas around set pieces. Hey, it'd be cool to jump out of a plane. It'd be cool to be in a car chase. And so it was sort of the whole piece was really designed around these set pieces. Where Michelle had input on that from the beginning. And so I think anytime you have talent, giving input and being part of that process, they're definitely more engaged, or at the very least, they definitely are engaged and very interested in it. And so I think we had that going into it. The shoot itself was, like I said, feeling a little bit more like a traditional movie set, with the difference being our coverage on the cameras was so wide, we really just had to sort of place things differently. Some of the stunt work was obviously more challenging. We're not cutting as much, so there were longer takes, and there was a lot of VFX that we were doing here, and so we had to sort of work through some of that in pre-production before going on set. But the shoot itself, this is a 20-minute film, so it's not a feature-length film, and so the shoot itself was pretty lean, really taking advantage of Robert's ability to be efficient and utilize all the resources he had at his studio in Austin, Texas, and really making sure that the talent, our actors really had the ability to sort of embrace the POV nature of this and sort of have fun with it.
Well said, and I guess you kind of alluded to it. For anyone out there who doesn't have one of these VR headsets and hasn't really experienced this before, a lot of content out there currently is made in animation, CGI. They're rather kind of formulaic because I guess no one's really that experienced to give away assets or make assets for VR. A lot of times they kind of download it and kind of repurpose it for their project. And I got to say that this is probably one of the and I think a lot of people maybe remember Hardcore Henry, I believe is the name of the movie. A traditional movie, but at the same time it attempted to bring the audience member in as kind of a feature of the film. But this is taking it again a step further than that. You are doing something new here and unique, and I guess that's really the whole purpose for STXsurreal. Why 20 minutes? I mean, obviously this, you said you took longer takes. I'm sure that you had a lot of footage. 20 minutes seems like a, kind of a quick experience. You didn't feel too crammed that, you were maybe just kind of showing off visual effects, but 20 minutes is enough for, kind of a story and get people engaged and then I guess leave them wanting more?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a process to sort of get to that runtime. We have produced, like I said, a lot of short form content. Myself, my partner Andy, our company as a whole, and so I think when it comes to short form storytelling, there's definitely an art to that. I think we're looking at the way that consumers are using headsets, how long they're spending in the headset for a session, how long they want to be in a session for a passive piece of content like this. We thought 20 minutes gave us enough real estate to be able to tell a story, to have some really great impactful moments, but to also be meaty enough to warrant a purchase, because this is not a free piece of content. And so I think you've seen a number of sort of really short form, like 3-minute, 5-minute, 360 experiences that have been put out for free. A lot of those have been promotional in nature, right? Promoting, another movie or another TV show or something like that. Whereas this is from the ground up built as an original native VR movie. And so we wanted to make sure that we had the real estate to be able to tell a story, but not push it too long where it maybe felt a little bit uncomfortable for the viewer. And then also just, looking at the economies of, getting it made at a very high quality, making sure that we're being respectful of our talent's time and everything like that. And so we like 20 minutes. Doesn't have to be 20 minutes, but for this, 20 minutes works.
Yeah. No, and of course, the movie itself, available through all these different. I guess I should ask you about that. You decided to make this platform agnostic. This is any VR headset. If you, let's see, I think you have it down here. If you have maybe Steam, Oculus, Daydream, Vive, so HTC Vive, PlayStation, and Windows Mixed Reality. I mean, and of course, you also have it for smartphones, I see here as well. So
yep.
I think people can, either through like Google Maps or YouTube videos, they've been able to kind of hold up their phone and, or they have the headsets as well. Platform agnostic. obviously it's a movie, that it's a bit easier than working with controls and, having to make a game play very smoothly on all these different, but was that kind of a conscious decision? Because I think right now, I haven't looked at the numbers, but, Oculus seems to be, kind of the biggest one right now. Vive is pretty much up there, but you decided to make this platform agnostic. Why?
Yeah, that's a good question. And just to sort of point out, our PlayStation build is coming soon, so that should be ready shortly. But I think for us, we wanted to go multi-platform because we just really wanted to make this very accessible for everybody that had VR, no matter what sort of iteration of it you had. So everybody who even has sort of those old Google Cardboards that they put their smartphones into, all the way up to those users who have invested a lot in a great gaming PC and have a great tethered headset like a Rift or Vive. We wanted to support everything. And so because this is essentially video content, it was something that we could make compatible across the board. Certainly we had to go through a lot of development to make sure that we were delivering the highest quality video that we could for these devices, because we really wanted the fidelity to be fantastic. That was really important for us coming into this, is that we've all seen blurry 360 video content, and that just doesn't work, especially when it's the level of talent that we have involved here. And so we really took a lot of time and care to make sure that the fidelity was fantastic, the fit and finish of the app was fantastic, and it plays really well across the board. So that was important to us. And I think, when it comes to the smartphones, like you're mentioning, even if you don't have a cardboard headset, but you're interested in this content, anyone with an Android phone or an iPhone can purchase this app and watch this content, sort of like as if you have a window into the world. Mm-hmm. And so it's really for anybody out there. Obviously, if you have a headset, it's going to be a more immersive, fun experience, but it is compatible for really every device.
No, and it makes perfect sense. And I'm going to kind of bring in another film here that kind of made waves a little while ago. Black Mirror, Netflix. They came out with the movie Bandersnatch, I believe is the name, and that that also kind of turned heads because it gave people the option to, I guess, kind of I think like 5 different points in the movie, you could have different choices of scenes, and you could make different decisions, and that seemed like a very interesting idea. I think that mixed with maybe something like you're doing, where VR and maybe because VR is so good at bringing people into an experience and getting them to really immerse themselves into the story that you're trying to tell. Able to maybe choose a different direction, go a different place, make decisions within the movie, and then have them go off on tangents. This is kind of my roundabout way of saying, what gets you excited about the future of cinema? Is it strictly just getting VR into filmmaking, or things like Bandersnatch where you get to make different decisions? What has you excited about the future of making movies?
Yeah, I think interactive storytelling is obviously a big can of worms. It can be amazing, and it can also be a little daunting for the person that really just wants to lean back and watch something awesome. So I think it is. I think we'll definitely see more interactive shows and movies, but at the same time, I think if you look at major SVOD platforms and sort of the demand for premium scripted content right now, obviously 99.99% of that is traditional scripted passive content. And so I think it certainly speaks to a consumer base that really wants to go home at the end of a long day, sit back, watch something fun or dramatic or scary from the point of view of a filmmaker that really wants to take you on an emotional roller coaster. And I think the great thing about VR is that we can do that and we can amplify it. And so I don't think it has to be interactive. Certainly it can be, but I think being able to take advantage of the extra field of view and real estate that you have inside of a headset to really just, almost think of it like IMAX on steroids, to really just put somebody in a certain setting and have scenes play out, whether or not it's POV, I think is a creative decision that a filmmaker makes, but certainly can be interactive, doesn't have to be. For us, as a larger studio, STX, we are a provider of premium scripted and unscripted content. And I think, we're not a game studio. What we do is, work with amazing talent like Robert Rodriguez and Michelle Rodriguez and Norman Reedus to really, create video content, films that resonate with viewers, and so that's what we're doing in VR. And I think we're excited about having that category become a real area of growth, and for the VR audience who, at this point, is mainly playing games and also watching sort of more traditional linear 2D content through like Netflix VR apps, is really, creating this new category of native VR films so that you still get that same lean back that you would from a Netflix VR, but now you're watching something that feels native for that format.
Perfect. And Rick, if you don't mind, music playing in the background means that we're going to come right back. Would you mind staying over?
Sure.
All right, perfect. So everyone, we'll be right back. More Computer America, more STXsurreal. Everyone, stay tuned.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour, and yeah, everyone, if you missed any part of our conversation so far with STXsurreal, or and of course, Mr. Rick Ray is joining us. He's the co-president of virtual reality and immersive entertainment at STXsurreal. If you missed any part of that, feel free to check out the video archives, and we also put out the podcast, which is essentially everything we talked about today here on the radio, and time shifted. So if you if you're commuting or what have you, hey, you can save us for then, and you are good to go. But yeah, Rick, thank you so much for continuing on with us. And
my pleasure.
Yeah, and we were kind of getting into the idea that you are really looking at the data, driving what kind of content people are really looking for at the moment. And something that I wanted to really bring to the attention of the audience is that you mentioned the word growth there. And I think there was a bit of an overstatement on the adoption rate of virtual reality, where the VR community and the VR hardware companies, they were saying that everyone's going to go out, they're going to buy one immediately, they're going, the adoption rate was going to be sky high. But at the same time, there was a singular fact-based reality that you can't get around. It's that when VR first came out, there were two graphics cards that could theoretically run them. It was like the RTX 580 or something, the Radeon RTX 580 or something like that. And then there was the NVIDIA 1080p or Titan. Essentially, the cards were like $700, $1,000. The system to build around the graphics cards were like another $1,000. And then the headset itself was even more than that. All this combined meant that there weren't even as many capable systems being built as they were projecting were going to adopt the hardware. As time goes on, as the years go on, what is VR ready, what is VR capable, starts to come down. Where it's now somewhere probably in the $600-$700 range, even less if you just want to look at the PlayStation 4 and see that as a VR equipment. VR is really, like everyone points at it and says it's not going to catch on because it's not exploding yet. At the same time, the hardware is just about now starting to get affordable, and now it's kind of on you. It's on companies like STXsurreal that have to provide the content so that people will, be enticed into buying the platform. And then after people adopt the platform, they're going to be looking for more experiences like the one that you're putting out. You mentioned that you're kind of positioning yourself. Is that how you see VR, kind of going where, and, feel free to contradict anything I just said, but that's how it seems to me, where we are on the kind of the verge of VR, but now we have to find the best use cases and, things that people actually want to see on the platform.
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. In terms of the forecast and everything, depending on sort of what data you want to believe, I think there's somewhere in the range of 40 million headsets out there in the world, all the way from the lowest end to the premium high end. Mm-hmm. Certainly, there's enough there to build business now today. I think if you look at some of the data from over the holidays, right, Q4, there was an uptick in sales of new hardware. Without naming names, there's a platform that we talked to that told us that a majority of people who purchased one particular headset was their first time purchasing a VR headset. Mm-hmm. And so it's not so much that everyone's maybe buying a second or a third headset. We're still in the wave of people discovering this and buying their first headset. And so it is growing. I think now you're seeing content that is really drawing people to the space versus sort of just the demos and really indie games that we saw in that first wave of headsets being released. And so we're definitely at a point now where there's a lot to sink your teeth in, not just as a gamer, but as a real entertainment fan. And the prices, like you're saying, have come down dramatically. Mm-hmm. So, looking at the Oculus Go, for example, totally untethered standalone headset for $200 US. It gives a great experience, in our opinion. You can play games on it. Obviously, it's limited because it's only 3 degrees of freedom and not 6 degrees of freedom. But it's really, part of the beginning of this new wave of untethered, affordable headsets where we think the market is definitely going. And it's really great for our style of content because even though it's a very high resolution video, it's still, at the end of the day, something that is compatible across a wide range. And so we're really bullish on mobile untethered headsets, but at the same time, making sure that we're servicing that PC first crowd that wants the best possible experience, the best possible fidelity, and making sure that the content works for them too. So I think for us, we're excited about the market and where it's going. We're excited about the holiday hardware sales. We're excited about new users coming in and looking for content and discovering the limit as the beginning of a whole new slate of these VR movies. And if you look at some of the feedback that we've gotten on the limit, 1 in 4 people that are leaving comments are asking what's coming next, or they want to see more like it. So I think if you put that growth and that voracious appetite for content alongside sort of this new style of content, I think we're really excited about this category.
I can completely see why. And by the way, I'm watching the video, we're checking out the trailer that you have. Very, very cool. It definitely puts you in that first person point of view. But at the same time, I think, like you said, you also have a kind of a two traditional kind of movie kind of point of view. So if hey, that's kind of the way this content works. If you buy it, let's say on Steam, watch it on your computer now. If you don't have VR, and when you do get a VR, hey, you can pop it in and watch it again yourself in that different format. Like, even if people don't have VR, even though this is made with VR in mind, you can still watch this with just a computer or a television, correct?
That's right. Yeah, and also, if you're just dipping your toes in the water and maybe not even ready to spend $200 on a headset, for I think as cheap as $5 or $10, you can get sort of a third-party plastic holder for your smartphone, that you can watch it at least in a headset, and it's obviously not as good of an experience as sort of a standalone headset, but still gives you sort of that immersive experience that you wouldn't get if you were just looking at it on your phone screen.
Right. No, and I think with that, I'll ask you, before we kind of say our thing, but anything about this project or the future of VR, anything that we didn't really touch on, because I feel like we've really hit a lot of points here, and so I'll leave it to you. Did we kind of gloss over anything?
No, I mean, the only thing I would say is if anyone's interested to please check out thelimitvr.com, which is where we have the trailer and more information about this and links so that you could download it. As a studio, we're looking to make many more of these, and so we'd love for you to check it out and send us your feedback. Tell us what you like, what you'd like to see, and we're really at a point where we're wanting to hear from people, wanting to get feedback so that we make sure that we're addressing this stuff as we move forward.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's right. That was actually my next question. If people want to find out more, thelimitvr.com, you can check that out. We'll include it in the show notes. And I think in the meantime, very interesting. And I more from you guys, more from STXsurreal, and just more in general from your colleagues and other people making this content. I really hope to, we've had a lot of filmmakers on the show before, and I hope that I have filmmakers such as yourself on the show, not because this is like, hey, cool, this is different, this is VR, but just, instead of trying to raise awareness, I hope to have a lot more interviews like this, just because it's really cool and it's a really awesome, kind of thing that you're doing here. So I hope that this catches on a lot quicker than it currently is. And it's great to see that you've put out the limit. Again, people want to put it out, computeramerica.com, link in the show notes. And in the meantime, Rick, everyone, Mr. Rick Ray, again, co-president of virtual reality and immersive entertainment at STXsurreal. Rick, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Great to meet you. Really appreciate it.
Our pleasure. And hey, feel free to come back, next project, or if you just want to wax nostalgia about VR, love to have you on anytime.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Have a great one. Bye, Rick.
You too.
All right, everyone, and there he goes. And you can check that out there. Again, one more time, if you miss any part of our conversation or our interview, feel free to check out the podcast. Wherever podcasts are heard, we have a new streaming page up at Computer America. Did some reworking with the website there. And hopefully all of you are enjoying that, and just made it easier so that if you want to subscribe, listen to our show on our website, or anywhere that you are currently listening to, hey, find it right there. Computer America should pop right up. Okay, now, with that being said, why don't we go ahead, get into computer and technology news. And anyone out there who is new to this kind of segment, this is where we check out whatever is happening in the tech world. Obviously, Computer America has been off for a little over a week, so there's a lot of things that we didn't get to touch on. And hey, in these last few minutes here, we're going to try our best. So everyone, computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. Here we go. Okay, so a lot of stories here. Let's start with this one here. And this is a topic that Google has been really adamant that not everyone or at least not everyone be allowed to do this. And this is the idea of the right to be forgotten, something that the EU has been pushing for quite a while now. The idea that I think that the original lawsuit, anyone out there who had not been keeping up to date on this, the original lawsuit was that a gentleman, he was applying for jobs, and when you would Google him, his name, articles would pop up, including articles. I think in that particular case, it was a foreclosure that he went through or other damaging material. Maybe it was like a divorce or something. But anyways, the search results for this individual's name were not flattering, and he said that it was costing him it was costing him interviews. He wasn't able to get a job, and even though the incidents in the articles were referencing things 10, 15 years in the past, think like a criminal record, which can be expunged after so long, the right to be forgotten in the digital age, Google had no such compulsions. You could write to Google and you could ask, but at the same time, Google as a private company could say, hey, not our problem. That is why you had this lawsuit over the right to be forgotten, and Google has been fighting this tooth and nail because and by the way, I think they lost that particular court case, and it's still ongoing, but they lost that one, and the right to be forgotten is still ongoing. But it's because if you do that, then companies can file for the same thing, and Google now has to spend a significant amount of time scrubbing the internet. Google does not run these websites. Google does not, wherever this gentleman's foreclosures were being held, Google.com did not write those themselves. Instead, they have to go out and make sure that they are not picking up search results for any website that is actually carrying that information. Much more complex. So now we have this article here. This is coming to us from The Verge. And yeah, saying that right to be forgotten used to force Google to remove medical negligence link. And this is fallout from all these legal matters that are happening, where a Dutch surgeon has had a link about her medical suspension removed. And one thing I want to make perfectly clear again is that just because it's not on Google, I know that 99% of the internet using population out there may think that it's not on the internet anymore. No, this just means that Google has not been found. If you go to another service that maybe specializes in reporting medical malpractice, then hey, you could go to that website and I'm sure find the information. Just the information would not immediately pop up through a simple Google search. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, just means a bit harder to find. But I digress. The article, Amsterdam's district court has forced Google to remove search results relating to Dutch surgeons' past medical suspension, where the original suspension was later reduced to a conditional suspension on appeal, but the outdated information was still present in Google search results. Where the ruling is thought to be the first time a search result relating to medical negligence has been removed in the almost 5 years since the EU first established its citizens' right to be forgotten, which was all the information I was just going over. This is very interesting because obviously where Google could produced the link, and while the outdated information would still pop up, wherever the information was being held, let's say someone wrote an article about it, or let's say the official rebuke was being hosted on a website. If you just click on the link and go find and actually do some research and look at what is being presented, you wouldn't assume that she was suspended or whatever this particular case was. But at the same time, it seems like Google is the end-all be-all of research. Now, at issue were links to a website that contains an unofficial blacklist of suspended doctors. The Dutch surgeon in question previously had her medical registration suspended, but this was later changed to a conditional suspension, meaning that she could still practice, but I assume under conditions, after a successful appeal. The judge took issue with the way that Google search results still returned a link to the outdated information on this unofficial blacklist site. There we go. Which is suggested that she should be treating people in her capacity as a doctor, or at least which she shouldn't be treating. Now, here's the thing. Why is the judge and why is the surgeon, why are they taking exception to Google search results when they should be filing complaints against the website for not keeping up-to-date records on her status? That seems like the better way to go about it, and trust me, I think Google would be happy with that too. But no, now the onus is being put on Google to actually police when other people put out false statements. This has implications as far as, and as much as you hate to use the phrase nowadays, but with things like fake news and what have you, whenever false information is the first thing to come up, people do not have the initiative to go out and verify the information that is being returned. No, Google is supposed to do that for them. But I digress. Now, Google and Dutch data privacy watchdog, and I'm not even going to try to say that name, initially rejected the request on the grounds that the surgeon's continued probation meant that the search results were still relevant, but this decision was overturned in court, where the ruling has only come to light now due to a dispute about whether the ruling should be made public. So they made it public because they had to ask the question, should this be made public? But they said that since then, the surgeon's lawyer has sought the removal of 15 more doctors from the blacklist. Again, seems like this lawyer is really taking exception to the list and really not so much with Google. Now, obviously, the article gets into a bit more about the Right to Be Forgotten, established May 2014, and since then, Google has removed more than 1 million URLs, saying that Google categorized most of the links removed as belonging to miscellaneous sites. But according to its October 2018 transparency report, almost 19% are from news sites, and 17% of those are from directory sites, and 11% are from social media. That's right. Facebook is the single most popular website with 20,000 URLs removed or delisted since 2014. This is what we have to ask of Google and of Facebook and anything else that kind of has a search bar. The right to be forgotten. And while I feel like a lot of this information should be on the individuals who actually search for it, it should be their responsibility. You know, if you're looking up for blacklisted doctors and you see that, maybe you're considering, this surgeon and the surgeon is on the list, it seems like, you should do some digging and see why were they suspended, how long were they suspended, and through that kind of research, you would find that, hey, the suspension was reduced and she wasn't actually suspended. But no, now it's up to Google to make it harder for people to find that same information. There you go. Okay, so there's that one. Very, very interesting article, and we are going to be hearing a lot more about kind of Google being the police for Google being the police for the information. Now, there you go. Let's all right, so this one's pretty interesting. We've reported from this source before, and they do a lot of great work. Check this one out. Top free VPN apps on Android ridden with malware and privacy leaks. This is something we have talked about before, and you should definitely keep an eye on it. VPNs are all the rage. Well, they were a little while ago, when it came to censorship and things like that. But essentially, anyone out there not really familiar with a virtual private network, it's a way that you could take your internet traffic, run it through a different server. Let's say you were in Florida and you want to reroute it through Texas. Then you connect to a VPN and you could choose to appear. It would appear like your traffic is coming from Texas rather than your closest node, which would be obviously somewhere in Florida. You purposely redirect your traffic to a different server. And what servers you have access to redirect your traffic through depends on your service. So, there are lots of different services out there. That's why some VPNs are, some people swear by them and some people don't have as good of an experience with them, is that, hey, maybe they have servers that are closer to you, different than you. And this extends all the way to the world, where you could redirect your traffic, say to, you could redirect your traffic to India, or you could redirect it to Germany, any of these other countries. Now, that's the point of VPN. They can be expensive. Some of them, they like to say, if you have a subscription to Netflix, you can afford a subscription to a VPN. They can cost more, they can cost less, and yes, some of them are free. Now, we've had bad experiences with free VPNs in the past. The problem with VPNs are that the free ones, they have to make money. They have those servers set up in a lot of different places. And if you are, kind of using them for free, they are losing money on every single person. So you ask the question, how the heck is a free VPN ever going to sustain itself? And hey, turns out sometimes things that are too good to be true are actually too good to be true. And this is why they said that analyzing 150 free and popular VPN apps on Android, top 10 VPN, who made this report, he said that 90% of these apps compromise the privacy and security of users through different methods. Moreover, these Android apps have over 260 million downloads on Google Play Store. This is the interesting part, because obviously Android, the marketplace for the Android, much more open than iOS. You have to look at things. Well, you have to consider that, to get an app onto the Android marketplace, much easier. It's not as thoroughly vetted as it is through iOS, so you have to be really careful about what you download. But when you're looking for choices of free VPN, hey, any of them will do. But turns out there are obviously a lot of risk. They said that the head of research reports that 38 VPNs tested positive for DNS leaks, exposing private data to hundreds of insecure links. Also, over 27 VPN apps were flagged as potential sources of malware when tested by VirusTotal. And apart from this, the research found an intrusive permissions in over 99 apps. And again, these are 99 of the 150 free and popular VPN apps. So yeah, about 2/3 are going to start collecting data about you. I'm sure including, they have it right here, location. So the point of VPN defeated right there. Location, device information, use of the microphone, and camera access, and more. Essentially, way oversharing. And they even have a little chart here. Here are the VPNs that top the risk index. So these were the worst offenders. And we're not going to say them by name just for, kind of legal sake. But you can find the full list at the website. We'll throw a link to the article there. But it's just very interesting that if you are going to use a VPN, and if you have any kind of legitimate reason, a lot of people use VPNs for connecting to work or things like that so that they get a more secure connection when they're handling private corporate data and things like that. I mean, there are legit uses for this. If you really need a VPN, you have to pay for it. Don't go with free. And even some of the paid ones, really read reviews. Some of the paid ones that are out there, some of the most popular ones, they too actually compromise your security. So when it comes to VPNs, read your reviews, check it out. I mean, we can't really recommend here can't really recommend here on Computer America because none of them sponsor us. But I will say that things like there was so yeah, and obviously there we go. Private internet access. They've been on the show before. They're very, very good. OpenVPN also very good. Do your research, folks. Don't just go with free. Actually pay for a service if you need it. And be careful out there. Everyone, the music in the background means that we are just flat out of time. I want to thank everyone for joining us here on the program today. I know that Computer America has missed a lot of shows here over the past week, but that should stop. Shows are picking up, and hey, hopefully you can continue on with us here as we jump into the shows again. Tomorrow on the program, you could definitely check it out. We are going to have Derek Shani. Yes, the one, the only. This is the first time we've had Darius on after CES. A lot coming out from CES, of course, when it comes to graphics and hardware and things like that. So it's going to be a very interesting show with Darius as we try to digest it all. Also, just want to tease the rest of the week. Thursday, we have our all Linux show, Marcel Gagne. Really looking forward to that one. And then Friday, the infamous Nathan Evans. So a full week, the rest of the week dominated by correspondence, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Everyone, until next time, thank you for tuning in, and 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Catch you then. Bye, everyone.